Welcome to the Critical Line Network, where insight meets analysis and where conversations spark transformation. Now, today I have a special guest. And of course, before we get started, I wanted to say a little bit about this topic is sensitive. So if you are very passionate about the topic of abortion, or you're sensitive, or you feel that this is something you really don't want to hear, you can kind of go ahead and click off now. Because again, this is going to be about politics, abortion, and about the topic of Roe versus Wade. So, but if you're definitely interested and you would like to hear two different diverse opinions and about the subject and about the topic, stay tuned in, and we will be right back. So welcome back to today's show, the Critical Line Network here at TCLN. We're all about healing, education, and growth. And today I have with me a special guest. Her name is Miss Melody. She's going to go ahead and introduce herself. And she's going to tell us a little bit about herself and about her background. And why we're here today about the subject of Roe versus Wade. Again, it's going to be two differing people who believe two different ways, of course. But we're definitely going to have an intelligent discussion and make sure that it's adults and not two people arguing and mad and a lot of the stuff that you see over the internet, but just two people expressing their opinions and why we think this subject is so important. So again, Miss Melody, go ahead and tell us about yourself and a little bit about your background and why you're here today with Roe versus Wade.
Great, thanks. And I love this kind of conversation. I have it many times with people. And I'm Melody Brooke. I'm a licensed counselor and marriage and family therapist. And I've been around since before Roe and now after Roe, and seeing so many things, that influence how I feel about it. And I also became a filmmaker about 12 years ago and recently made a film about my personal experience with fictionalized when I was 15. So,
Okay.
and the name of the film is 15. And once I did that, I found so many people so enthusiastic about the film, and I realized how many stories there are around the globe on this same topic that I'm working on doing a series of short films on this topic with different stories, different genres, what could happen or what has happened to people. And that's one of my big project right now. It's called Kazada.
Okay, nice. Thank you so much for sharing that with us today. I know Miss Melody because we go back to filmmaking together. So of course I was into filmmaking way before this show. And she knows that I used to make little side films on the side also. So we're both very well love film. We know about acting, we know about filmmaking, and we know the power of storytelling. So that's why we're here today, wrapped around this topic of abortion and Roe versus Wade. Melody, I just wanted to get started. The first thing I wanted to ask you is, what is your religion? Because I know religion is a tie. Do you have a religious system, or do you believe in certain religion?
Not
It's
religious.
tied a lot too. Okay, then cool.
I'm not religious.
Mhm.
I am spiritual. I definitely
Okay,
have a spiritual path and definitely have an understanding of what's core for me,
exactly.
based in Christianity, I would say. So
Okay, then. Okay. Now, the reason why I asked that, because that is important, because
yeah.
I wanted to start off with this by saying, there was a time when, Planned Parenthood and the Christians and the Catholics would get up and they would protest a lot against abortion. And today you don't really see that in our culture too much as much. But I remember growing up And I remember how it was and the different protests and the things that we would see on TV and stuff like that. How do your beliefs tie in with you being okay with, because you're what you call is it pro-life? Is that what it's called?
No,
Pro-choice or pro-life? Yeah,
I would
pro-choice.
say I am 100% pro-choice. Yeah.
Pro-choice,
Yeah.
that's what it's called. So I think I would be pro-life then. I don't really go by those
Yes.
titles and labels.
Yeah.
I just go,
That's how
yeah,
the world would refer to us.
it
Yes.
referred to it. Okay, then cool. And how do your belief system, as you know, Christianity, as you would say, based in those principles, how do you feel like they align with what you would call pro-choice, for a woman's right to abort, or the state's right to terminate?
Well, I don't know about the state's right to terminate, but
Well, when I say the state, because they make the choice, they remember when
yeah,
they
they
say
make
they
it so
pass
it's
it to the
possible
state.
or not
Yeah,
legally. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. See, the thing is that from what my early understanding of Christianity has always been that we are free to choose for
Mm-hmm.
ourselves. And whatever our path is, whatever our spirituality, whatever our life choices are, that we were given that free will.
Mm-hmm.
And with that free will, we have to decide for ourselves. Some
Oh,
people,
okay.
right? For some people, it's absolutely not something they would ever consider doing, right?
Yeah.
But
Uh-huh.
for others of us, which I fully support, you know, but for
Exactly.
others of us, there's various and very complicated reasons why somebody would choose a different choice. And
Exactly.
and it is not my place to judge whether that's right for that person or not.
Okay.
Because
And
there
we're
are
going to get
people
to
who,
that. We're going to tap into that. We're going to tap into what
yeah,
some of those complications are.
okay, yeah,
And I wanted to stay right here for just a minute, because this is very important. And the reason why I bring up religion, because religion is definitely tied to Roe
oh yeah,
versus Wade. You know that, with the
oh yeah,
Republicans and the Democrats and all of that. And I'm gonna tell you something. I do believe that religion plays a big role, because you said you believe in the power of choice. And my thing is this: how others was raised, and maybe that's why it is a big divide.
right.
And you probably know this, is that they was raised like thou shalt not kill, and they was raised like this is life from God, and they were raised like certain things we don't do, and even though we're given a choice, but you got heaven and hell at the end of that choice. So I think when it play,
Yeah, that's part of
it's
where
funny how,
that's
yeah,
part of
it's
where I
funny how
separate.
free you say it like that. Exactly. It's funny
Part,
how free, because do you believe that that has to be wrapped around how you was raised in your household period towards religion, or how you were taught,
no,
or
this
is
was
that a
my own
decision
path.
you
This
made?
has been
Oh,
my,
okay,
yeah,
okay, okay,
because I
okay,
actually
okay.
was 10 years old when my family didn't go to church in those days.
Uh-huh.
But all my friends were going to Sunday school, and I was like, what is this, and so there were two churches across the street. I asked my mom, what are we, Baptist or Methodist? And she says Methodist. So I said, okay. So I went across the
Okay,
street
nice.
and started
I
going to the
see.
Methodist church, and read the Bible and took the lessons and visited a bunch of different churches, and just over the years have found my own way of
I see what you're
understanding.
saying. I see what you,
Yeah.
and I'm like that too. I still keep some principles and some morals, but I'm definitely, I wouldn't say, because I personally, when it comes to religion, Melody, I don't believe that any religion made up good character. I think that comes with
Yes.
humanity and our
Well,
conscience. And
and I have to say that was part
yeah.
of my dilemma with
Hmm.
Christianity, was
Hmm.
that my birth father was a complete and total hypocrite, and would answer the phone, praise the Lord, Jesus Christ.
And do something totally different.
Oh, and he was a liar and a cheat and a sexual perpetrator.
Yes,
And I mean,
yes. I know what you're saying. And I think my path is that after my mother died, of course,
hang on.
yeah,
Okay, my daughter was trying to call me, so we got cut
that's
off.
fine.
All right.
I'll edit that part out.
Okay.
I think we do find our journeys. I think life allows us to find our journeys, because I think with me, it happened with my mother when she was killed and terminated. I think to me, it started waking me up to start asking questions in life and to
Yeah.
see what life was really about. And she was mistreated really bad by the church. And so I had to go because it took a lot for me to say, God, like, what is this Christian thing, and the stuff that I went through a lot with Christianity. So I didn't necessarily throw Christians away, but I threw away the ideal that I had to be what you said I had to be. I knew that I needed to have good character. I can't just live any kind of way and claim that I believe in God. But I knew that I had to find my own path. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And there's just certain beliefs and morals I don't feel like Christianity teaches me or anyone. I feel like that if you a person that don't steal, you just don't steal. If you're a person that you want to do things right, you just do them right. And I understand the tenets of Christianity and what the core is. And to me, that's everybody's own journey and everybody's own path as they grow and learn. But I just wanted to see how that tied into,
Yeah.
what you believed about abortion. Because I know what they teach, when it
Yes, I
comes
know.
to
And so
abortions. Yeah. Hmm.
when I was 13, my big question was, what is this God? What is that?
Yeah.
You know,
But
I,
but you
I
know
didn't
what? Some
understand what it
people will
was.
tell you that you're wrong for thinking like that. Like people will say that's the devil in your head. But what people fail to realize, Melody, how am I going to have a relationship with you
If I don't know
if I
what
don't
you
get to
are.
know who you are or what you're
Right,
about?
right.
And so you're right. You're right. You go on your own journey. And
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 so
not a rebellious journey, but just a learning
so
journey.
at 13, when I read the Good News Bible, the New Testament, um, I came away with, oh, God is love. Got it. And anything that is not love is not God.
Yeah. 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 So do you believe though that God gives us certain boundaries and certain things that principles that we supposed to live by?
I think we have to live by love.
Hmm.
That is
But
it.
even with love, like your children, right? You love them,
Yes.
but you make sure that they have certain boundaries and certain things, right? Because
But
that's a part of
but
love.
it's all about love, right? And I've
Yeah,
come to the
exactly.
place,
Yeah.
even when it
Hmm.
comes to parenting, I've come to understanding that even the way I parented was overly harsh to what I would advocate now. I didn't spank my kids, but I definitely had a punishment attitude,
I
which
know.
which I at this point in my life I recognize that the way to help children is to grow is to
Hmm.
stay attuned with them emotionally and help them make good choices.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
it.
Exactly. But that's a part of boundary because that's what you call good choice. Like you don't want to see your child on crack. So
Right.
you have to teach them certain things to make sure
We
they
have
don't.
to
Now,
help
don't mean
them.
it don't mean that they're not going to go down that path. It just means that you tried your best to instill in them, and you're still going to love them and accept them if they do or they don't. That's love.
And have them
But it,
understand the impact of their
is that
choices.
exactly. So that's what we're going to get into. We're going to get into the impact
Mhm.
of our choices when it comes to what we call Roe versus Wade or what we call determination or abort. And I want to start off with because a lot of people, when we look at the word abort, it just runs over our head. But abort, when you look at the definition of abort, even in the sense of when you have to terminate a life, it means to stop something, to stop something in progress, just so you'll know. Now, I want to ask you this question. You can answer it whether you choose to or you may not choose to. And I will also answer it for myself too, because I think it's important as women, that we don't just talk about everybody else's stories or we don't just talk about the topic, but we face, our own selves and how we reckon our own, humanity and consciousness. So I want to start out by asking, have you in your lifetime actually ever had an abortion?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
That's
And
what
do you?
that's what the film 15 is about. Like I
Mm-hmm.
said, it's a
Mm-hmm.
roughly about, it's not exactly my story, but it's based
I
on my
know.
story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I will answer that question for myself too. I was a young girl, and of course, I've had one too. But mine was more not of my own decision; it was more of someone else's influence.
Gotcha.
And,
So was mine.
yeah,
And
exactly.
I have to say
Yeah,
that's one of the issues that I hope the film brings up because
yeah,
it's all about choice.
yeah. And it
And
has
I
to be
didn't have a
your
choice.
choice and
I
not
did not have
someone
a choice.
else's. Yes, yes. Yes.
At least from
Mm-hmm.
my perspective, right? As a
Mm-hmm.
15-year-old girl, I did not have a
Mm-hmm.
sense that I could do anything other than what my parents told me to do. You
Exactly.
know?
Then how
And
did you feel at the time though? Like what was the
I
emotions
walked
with
through it
that?
like a zombie, man.
Yeah.
I I had to I had to dissociate from the entire experience.
Yeah. Did you want the baby originally, or were you, or
Well,
did you not even know
what
or
what did a
understand?
15-year-old know about what they want?
Yeah.
Um,
But I'm
I
just
was
saying, like
I
these
was
kids
in
today
love,
think that they want to be a man or a guy. But at
right?
that time, like what did you feel at that 15-year-old time? What
Oh,
did you
I
feel?
thought I was gonna fall. I
Mhm.
was gonna live my life with this guy who's, by the way, a total idiot, and and we were gonna live happily ever after. But the truth is, he didn't want it either, you know.
Mm.
And
Mm.
but I was so in need of a bond. That's a whole other traumatic history story, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So in need of a bond at the time that that's what I was attached to, was the idea of having somebody who I believed cared about me.
Okay. Okay. That's
And
good to
so,
know. Hmm.
right, and that's the whole reason why I, looking back, I might think, that would have been a nightmare. But on the other hand, there are other ways I can look at it. But in the end of my story, I hope people get that it's like, this is not an easy decision for anybody, and
It's not.
whether you
It's
have
not.
whether
Hmm.
it's legal or it's not, it's going to be a problem, because it's going to
Exactly.
happen. It's going to
Okay.
happen.
Okay. And I did wanted to share that with the audience because we don't want to look like we're just making up our ideas and all that kind of stuff. We come from experience. So, and most of the time when we talk, we're bringing experience, not just what we think or what our opinions are, but we're bringing experiences of our own from two different sides. But I want to start out with about your film and
Hmm.
about when you look at number one, I want to ask you this question. Do you know about the race relations when it comes to abortions? Like, do you know which races of women who are affected the most when it comes to abortions?
Well, I know it's minority women,
Yeah.
and poor women,
Black
um,
women. Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
it's also true of maternity care, not just abortion care.
Yeah. 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 And
It makes me
there's
sick,
this,
by the way. It just makes me sick when I read those
yeah.
numbers,
And there's this
because
thing.
we have the worst mortality rate for women in maternity care of any first world country. And it's 10 times worse if you just happen to be a woman of color.
Yeah. And you know the craziest thing is that you have all these loopholes, right? So one minute they're saying there's these millions of people, families that want to adopt, right? Because I was
Right,
watching this thing on CBS,
right.
and I was like, well, how you gonna have millions of abortions, but then you got millions of people that want to adopt, and then you also have millions of people losing babies. I'm like, something ain't quite right with that because you only got so many millions of Americans. You know what I'm saying? I'm not talking about the world.
Well,
I'm talking about addressing Americans. And I'm like, these numbers and stats are not mathing. So
no,
it's a loop. It's a loophole somewhere. It's some
right. Well,
information that's being left out the loophole. Yeah.
and all these
Mm-hmm.
children of color
Mm-hmm.
that are born and have, because people think, oh, I'll just put them up for adoption. And then
Mm-hmm.
these multiple people who have money enough to adopt, they
Mm-hmm.
don't want children of color necessarily.
Yeah. That is. That I would say that is a factor. I didn't
And
think
it's
about it like
like
that, but that's a factor. Yeah.
there's this
Mm-hmm.
disconnect, like you say, between reality and
And what's really going on?
what people want to say, right?
This is why I think education is important. I
So
think
important.
people do not educate a woman on her true power. And what I mean by true power, like yes, you can get pregnant and get an abortion, but why are they not educating the woman on listen, and I know some women may say, but I don't want to be controlled like that. I should be able to have sex when I want to or be able to do what I want to. And what we fail to realize, and this is just me talking now, Melanie, but what we fail to realize is that you have to understand that there are consequences to sex. No matter how we put it, no matter how we cut it, if you are a woman, you can get pregnant unless you just can't. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And there are consequences to sex. So I just believe that it's so important that women understand that, hey, I have to understand that when I lay down, you understand what I'm saying? I can't just be hot and want to get it on, but that when I lay down, I'm a potentially can get pregnant if I don't use protection, or if I just don't see when or how I need to really do this thing. You know what I'm saying? Because
Well, that
hold
gets
on,
me on
Mel,
a
hold
whole other
on.
subject because I start thinking about,
Hold on. Yeah, but that's the thing though. That's just we don't have no control over how nature made it. Nature made it, whether you want to say God or nature, it made it that way. That's how we do that. When we have sex, there's potential of getting pregnant, you know. And with the majority of women anyway, we're not talking about the cases where some women just can't get pregnant. We're talking about majority of life, you know,
right.
and a majority, but that's just, and so why come it can't be that our power is that educate ourselves and our bodies, that we have so much power on who we decide to sleep with, especially if we're not married, who we decide to sleep with. Because let's be honest, Melody, the majority of abortions, and even doctors tell you this, not just me, because they've been being interviewed by Congress and all these
Mhm.
people, they will tell you that the majority of abortions is not because of a medical emergency. The majority of
Yes.
abortions are due to people just sleeping around, you know.
Or,
So
yeah, other things, but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so, and it could be influence too, because there's influence in a lot of stuff. People influence you to have sex, all kind of things go
Well,
on.
when you think about
Um,
what women are raised to believe and what men are
hmm
raised to believe in our culture, in most cultures, I suppose, is that
hmm
it's our job to provide that pleasure for our partner.
yeah,
And
that's
if
true
we
though.
say
That's
no,
why I
we
say
will,
education is important.
right. And if we say
Yeah,
no, they might just choose to take it
go
anyway.
cheat, go
They
cheat,
might
or
cheat.
yeah,
They might just make it manipulate us to the point where we don't feel like we have an option. I mean, it's and it's so oh, and as women, we're taught that's where our value is, right? Is how
Thank
beautiful
you
and
so much.
sexy
That's
we are.
why I wanted to have this
Yeah,
conversation. That's why I
and
think
so
diverse
we
opinions
we
are important.
we have
Yeah.
to. Our whole
hmm
culture has to change. You know, it's like I have
hmm
clients that are male that that have started waking up to how they were programmed, and
hmm
they're like, oh my God, I've done some stupid shit that I didn't even realize was so
Come on
wrong,
now. And we
you
all
know?
been there.
And
hmm
and I understand it, and
hmm
so that's why I have a great deal of compassion, but I also look at it from the men's point of view. Like there are plenty of men out there who have sex and don't even think about the consequence of their
They
behavior.
don't. They
And
don't.
yet
And,
then
and
they,
there are also men out there, and I've been saying this, what happens to the man? Like, say, for
right,
instance, it was consensual sex
right,
and he didn't rape her or nothing.
right.
They loved each other. They good. But all of a sudden, she just doesn't want it. But what if he does? And how do the courts deal with that? Because it's just like
Well,
saying
it's
to the man,
complicated. Yeah, it's
you have no
complicated.
rights.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, because it's
Like,
her
it's like,
body.
okay, you just don't,
But here's
it's
the
his,
thing.
but he put it in there, it's
Right,
his
right.
seed.
But
Yeah.
here's the thing too, is that
Yeah.
I think that the biggest shift that needs to happen is not in women's health care. The biggest shift that needs to happen is men's contraceptive care.
Come on now. Well, I don't know about country, but I think that they need to have a thing where they bring in true education and knowledge,
Well, the
because people
problem is
people just,
education is not enough, as much as we would
I'm
like
not
for it to
saying it
be.
is. I'm not saying it, and I know
Yeah.
that, and I'm not saying it is, but without it, like I think about the times when I got pregnant, Melody. I got pregnant at 14. My first baby had it at 15, and I got pregnant in foster care by the foster care parent woman. Her son was in college, and he revoked his rights because they didn't want to attach that back to him. You understand what I'm saying? This is my oldest daughter's grandparents and all of this. And I think about this, but I was just this kid that knew nothing about sex, and
You're a
because that's why I
baby.
wanted to
You're a
ask
baby
this. Yeah,
yourself.
but this is what I wanted to ask you: when it comes to marriage versus unmarried, how many women who are married who are actually getting abortions versus women who are unmarried? Because totally totally it's the unmarried, not necessarily the married.
Hmm.
A lot of times the married women want a child, can't even have one. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, and it does
Or they
happen. It
or
does
they just
happen that
it do
they're by
happen, but not as
choice.
much.
By
Yeah.
choice, they don't want to have children. They want to have an
Yeah.
active sex life, and accidents happen.
And most of those women can afford to get the
Right,
kind of
right,
contraceptives that they
right,
desire
right,
versus the women who cannot. They have to
right.
go get
That's
this or
right.
birth control or
That's right.
whatever. But but to go back to the question, the majority of these people who having abortions, they're not married. Let's just be honest, they're not. They're
Right.
people who just they're not disciplined, or they have, like I was at the time, just wasn't educated. Like I was raped at an early
I
age.
had no idea. I had no
So
idea.
sex, exactly. So
I
you
had
just,
no idea.
sex is sex. So
Right.
a lot of people, and I'm not saying a lot of, because we got too much knowledge today. We got social media, everybody
Right. Right.
talking, young folks into politics. So our dynamics have changed. You know, back then, Melody, you know, we didn't have no social media. Like we wasn't no such thing as phones and social media. You stayed in your communities, and if your parents didn't want to be embarrassed by you pregnant, you was gonna get an abortion. Or if you was just a child that, you know, a lot of black families was like, the dynamics have changed for black families, because back then black families was like, oh no, you ain't brought no kids here, we'll find a way to make a way for this child. That's how it was back then. So that's what I mean by so many different dynamics have changed
Right.
over the years.
Right.
And so that's why I was asking, like, versus the women who are married versus those who are unmarried. You know what I'm saying? That's why I say education is important. It's not enough. I agree with you. It's not. It's not. Because education doesn't stop that force of nature of lust and everybody want to see. Like it just doesn't. It just
No.
doesn't stop it. That education go out the window, you know.
Yeah.
But it is important. That's just like when you're instilling in your children certain principles, they don't just throw it out all the way out the window. They make their mistakes and they be like, dang, mama told me, you know, and they go back to those principles. So that's why I say it is important. It's just not, it can't be the end all be all though. But I do think that men need rights just as much as women do when it comes to abortion. But I do understand what you're saying on that angle too, that these men do. It shouldn't just be all about the woman's body. Like he needs to learn how to deal with himself
Yeah.
too. You know.
If
Yeah.
because if I had
Yeah.
a son, I don't. I've got
Mm-hmm.
daughters, but if I
I
had a
know.
son,
Uh-huh.
I would want them to understand that they could make 100 babies in a year,
Wow.
right?
And go off.
Whereas, or more, right? And a woman can make one.
Mm-hmm.
So who bears the burden of responsibility? Well,
Mm-hmm.
in society, it's women, but in actuality, it's men. And unless
Yeah.
they address their own consciousness about that, it's like they don't want to have a kid. Their girlfriend says, "Oh, I'm on birth control. Don't worry about it," but
Mm-hmm.
she's lying, right? And then
Yeah.
he's stuck with
That
child
happens a
support
lot.
for 18
That happens a
years.
lot.
Right.
Yeah. And those
And
men just
so
don't want that.
it's like,
Yeah.
why would
Mm-hmm.
you trust a woman just based on her word? Yes, I know you
Word.
love her and all that stuff. But
You need to strap it on.
yeah. And
Yeah.
if you're going to
Yeah.
risk it, you need to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that you're not providing her with the child, even if she says she's on
Mm-hmm.
birth control. You've
Because I'm not
got
gonna
to.
lie, I go raw with it, Melody. I do. I be like, listen, your seed as a man, you do not want to stick your pooper in every woman just laying out babies. You automatically know you don't like her. You just think her booty cute.
Yeah.
So why is you just flapping it in
Well,
there and
because
just
they
leaving
don't
it
think
in
about
there?
it. They don't have to bear
Exactly.
they don't have to bear the
Exactly.
child. They don't have
Mm-hmm.
to bear the burden until
Mm-hmm.
the woman, if she manages to get them to court, right? They don't have
Yeah.
to bear any burden.
You
And this is
right.
the difficulty, it's like
You right.
why it has to be if more men would take ownership of their sperm,
Thank you, Melody.
then
Because
we
I
would
was
have a
saying that
lot
too.
different world.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, because that is so important. That is true. Like a man needs to
Yeah.
educate himself just like a woman do.
Oh, more
You
so,
know,
more so, because men don't realize
that
it.
sperm is your seed that God gave you to left leaving the earth.
They
But
don't,
if you just sprouting it everywhere,
right.
and
And
then
they
you
don't
don't
even
want
think
all
about
these
it.
babies,
They
they
don't
don't.
even
They
think
just
about
want
it.
they just want to do that good timing. Yeah. They
I
want to have
talk
a
to
good
enough
time.
men to know that
Exactly.
they just are like, oh, you mean
Hmm.
I could take responsibility for that? Like, yeah, I wouldn't risk it if I were a man.
Yeah,
No way.
exactly. Because you having babies with women that you know you really don't want to be with.
Right.
And now you mad and you stuck. And now you
And you're
don't want to deal with
16
all
or
that.
you're 22 and just launching your career or
Career, yeah.
whatever it
Hmm.
is. And,
Hmm.
you have to take ownership of the fact that where you put that sperm, it better not be good sperm.
Thank you. I've been addressed. Trust me, I'll be talking about that too. I think about, and I think another thing that's important when I look at our lives, Melody, like we haven't always had the best of lives as humans, but we've had some good times. You understand what I'm saying? And we've done some things we've enjoyed doing. We've laughed, we talked, we've played, we've cried, and we've had all kind of life experiences. And this is just me, Melody. Don't because I stand on what I stand on, just like you stand on what you stand on. When I look at these, that's why I think people need to take more, like you said, both male and female need to be more responsible. We're not living in the times of where we didn't know and you just was floundering around. You understand what I'm saying? And
Right.
oops, I
Right.
found out later, oh my God, I'm stuck with this Cabbage Patch doll for 18 years. Now we have too much information. Like, I believe that God, as far as what I believe is God, I believe that God has such grace on ignorance because God know we don't know. Why beat someone when they don't know? Like you say, you have love because sometimes people just don't know. What you don't know is what you don't know. I can't come beat you over the head for what you don't know. And I do believe that God gives us grace when we don't know. But when we come into a time of such education and such wisdom where we know, now we talking all this noise out here. We want to talk about the woke area, but we want to still play dumb. You understand what I'm saying? So when we come to a point where we say, when does it come to a point where now we have the wisdom and we start being more responsible? You understand what I'm saying? Both male and female. Because again, it goes back to the consequence. You're going to have a child. Like, not always if you can't get pregnant, but for the majority we know of 3 minutes sex, bam, that's all it takes.
Yeah.
A trans,
Yeah.
and so you think about our lives and our laughter and our talk and all the experiences we have. People fail to realize when you abort, that's what you cutting off. You're not just cutting off that particular, you understand what I'm saying? You're cutting off the assignment of that life. When if you would go ahead and educate yourself as men and women and be more responsible, like you said, because a man can strap it on and save that seed from touching that egg, and then you don't have to worry about the procreation part and you don't have to worry about terminating that life. But once you do that, that's all of the experience you cutting off. You're not just cutting off, oh, I'm just cutting off the life because I don't want it or I'm not ready for it. You're failing to realize you're cutting off an entire experience. Because remember, when we came through here, whether we admit it or not, whether they were good days or bad days, just depending on our lives, some people's lives were better than others, we know that. But at the end of the day, it's our experiences. You understand what I'm saying? And if we supposed to, like Dr. Maya Angelou says, when we know better, we supposed to do better. So that's what I meant by education. I didn't mean like this type of education that you sit down and get into school.
Yeah.
I just
Well,
meant the
and
education of life.
right.
Yeah.
That's part of our
Yeah.
difficulty with the
Hmm.
whole,
Yeah.
this whole dialogue
Dynamics.
has
Hmm.
cutting off of funds and education about sex.
Yeah,
That
we
they
can do
don't
that
want
for
the
free
school
on
to
the
teach them
internet.
that. They don't want the schools to teach them that.
Not in this day and era. They taught
Well,
us,
but here's the
back
problem.
then they came into schools. Not in this day and era
Not
though.
they did, but it was horrible. Not very informative.
I ain't gonna lie though, the Just Say No Nancy campaign, honey, that saved me from some drugs. I'm
Well,
glad they
that's
did
good. It
that.
does for some, it works for some people, but
It
not for
did. I'm,
everybody.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna tell you something because they would come in there. We used to laugh at them. You know, kids laugh at adults sometimes. We'd be like, "There them people go again," you know. And they were always white women, by the way. We
Right,
little
right,
black
right.
kids. They come in there, just say no. They show us these horrible pictures. Just say no. But were they lying though? Because when you look at today's and you look over the years, that crack destroyed a people, man. I mean, it did a number, and the heroin and some of this stuff, and so them instilling that in us, it really, some things do work. I can say, you know,
Well,
I'm
yeah,
proud
you
of them
never
for
know
doing
what's
that.
going to work, right?
Yeah, yeah, you
And
don't. But
the
yeah.
more we can help people
Mm-hmm.
take ownership of their sexuality,
Come on
whatever
now.
it is,
Mm-hmm.
and understand the impact of their choices,
Come on now.
you
That's
know,
what I'm
and
talking
also to
about.
understand that
Mm-hmm.
even when you, like, for me personally, um, you know, I've gotten pregnant on every form of birth control.
Have you really?
Yes. I
Girl,
didn't
you
have
too
the
potent.
implant because they didn't have that when I was back in the
Yeah,
day. But
back in the
everything
day.
else, yes, I've gotten
And you was
pregnant.
actually taking it correctly and you got
Yes.
pregnant?
Yes.
Wow. Wow. They say that they don't happen a lot, but they do
But
say it happened
so for
though.
those of us who
Hmm.
drop multiple eggs every month,
Oh, wow. Fertile.
yeah,
Fertile people.
yeah, I had
Hmm.
twins.
Hmm.
So what does that tell you?
Wow. Wow. Oh,
I
yeah.
mean,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
there are those of us, and that's where I'm part of, I guess, what drives my recognition of the need for choice is that there are those of
Hmm.
us who do take responsibility for it, and stuff happens anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I just I know where I stand on it. I don't change my mind on that because I know that the majority, yeah.
Okay, go again. What was that? You know where you
Yeah, yeah, because I know that the majority of it really do come for people not taking responsibility. They
Yes,
want a quick fix to everything.
yes.
And I do take it with an exception of if you're a mother, Melody, I'm not some kind of deranged person, and you're laying up on a table and something detrimental is happening, and the doctor's saying, I'm sorry, we're just gonna have to take this out. If not, you're gonna die. Those are exceptional cases, and trust me, nobody's gonna sit there and debate that. That is what
Except
that
that
is.
that's not
You,
true in Texas. Ken Paxton,
well,
Ken
well,
Paxton forced
they
that
go back
woman.
to law. Yeah, they go back to
They
law.
forced that woman to go out of state to save her own life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And she had the
yeah,
money to do it, thank God, you know.
yeah. But
But
the
if you don't,
majority, what I was saying is that the majority of them, though, come on now, let's be honest, Melanie. We know that the majority of abortions really don't. They don't come that way. They just don't.
no, the
Um,
majority do not. But
Not the
those
majority.
that
Even the doctors make mention of that. They tell
right.
you the stats.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they say the
But the
majority of
problem
women.
is
Yeah.
that even if
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like I don't believe in the death penalty either, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't believe that we know 100% what
So,
was really
Melody, how
happening.
can you do an abortion but you don't believe in the death
Be,
penalty?
be,
That's an
how
oxymoron.
can you be pro-choice and not, I mean, pro-life and believe in the death penalty? That's what I don't
I
understand.
don't necessarily believe in the death penalty.
Right,
I don't.
right.
But
Well,
there
I'll
are
tell
people
you
that
how.
do, though.
I'll tell
There
you
are
how.
people that.
It's because I
I
don't
don't
just
necessarily believe in the death penalty. I do believe you should get some just punishment, but
yes,
I don't believe that you should be just
yes,
taking lives because you
yes,
can easily take an innocent life by someone being
yes.
accused. So I
Many
don't do the
times.
death
Yeah.
penalty either, but I do. There are people who are like
No,
that, though.
and
You're
that
right.
doesn't
Hmm.
happen often, right? It's the
Yeah,
same. This
it
is my
don't.
point, is it doesn't happen
Hmm.
often, but because
Hmm.
it happens at all, it should never
Hmm.
happen.
Yeah.
And it's this, I look at it the same way with
And
abortion.
Texas show
Because
enough believe in the death penalty.
because if it ever happens that a woman is carrying a
uh,
child and has to die if she's carrying that child, then
hmm.
women should always have the choice.
Hmm.
To me, it's the same.
I believe that too. I do believe that because now you're dealing with, you can always have another child, but you can never get your life back.
Yeah.
So in those cases, I do understand it. Hi guys, welcome back for your Labor Day weekend. And I want to say, I need your support. I'm going to cut right to the chase. Not going to bullcrap you. TCLN, the Critical Line Network, where Insight Meets Analysis, is a platform that provides value in education, in healing. Also, I talk about issues in politics, social issues, religion, business, politics, you name it. Now, I got some very special videos over there. Anything you're looking for is going to be on that channel when it comes to politics, business, religion, and culture. It is a new and growing channel, so that's why I need your support. Please go over to the Critical Line Network channel and podcast on YouTube. The link is going to be in the bio. Support you guys. Just watch a few videos, see if it's your style. You like it, hit the notification bell. I'll have upcoming content. Okay? Thank you. Yeah. But I just, when I look at it, it's just like, go back to the death penalty, you know. I do understand that these are not always so easy to deal with, but let's just say somebody mercilessly is just tearing your family apart. They're killing your family, killing your kids, threatening to kill you, this and this and this and that. And they mocking you, they're laughing at you, because you have people out there that do that all the time. They do families like that, especially in different environments and stuff. They even go to courts and mock and laugh. And what would you believe, what type of punishment that person should receive?
Well, I don't believe in punishment, but I do believe in protecting society.
Okay. So you don't believe that they should get a penalty for what they're doing?
I think they need help. They're seriously mentally ill. They need medication, they need therapy, they need to be in a safe space where they can't hurt anyone else.
So basically lock up.
Yeah.
To prevent them from society.
Yeah.
Okay then. So when it comes to these abortions, let's really think about them. And we know that the majority of them is not through medical condition or through birth, lack of,
I know.
You take birth control.
I had a girlfriend.
So how do we deal, Melody, with, because at the end of the day, aborting something is the termination of life, no matter how we cut it. So at the end of the day, if we're not going to do death penalties, how do we deal with mass termination of life then? Like, have you thought about that? How do we deal with that?
That's not what I would ever consider it. Because, for one thing, no one knows when life begins. I know people have all kinds of ideas about when life begins.
The doctors tell you, because they know, they can look in there and see.
They know there's a heartbeat. They don't know that life has begun.
That's beginning life, Melody. What are you
Not necessarily, because they're still just a mass of cells.
That's what we disagree.
If you took that embryo out, it would not
But Melody, your cells is life. If your cells die right now, you don't live, sweetheart.
So is the
your blood. Exactly.
So every time
that's why we're against abortion, because we already know it's alive.
Every time a man
this get good, Melody. This about to get good, girl.
So every time a man uses a condom, he's aborting. Every time a woman takes a pill, she's aborting.
No, he's not aborting, because it hasn't touched. It hasn't touched. Remember, remember, Melody, it has to touch. Wait a minute though. In order for it to do the expanse of life, though. So that's the difference. It's there. That's the way life put it. That's whether you call it God or nature, it's made in you, right? So it's there and it's alive. But in order for it to start the cycle, it has to do what? Even the doctors let you know this. Like, you don't even have to have sex. But as long as they got the sperm and they got the egg, they can put it together in a dish, and it does what? So that's what we're saying. That's what we're saying.
Now that's people are.
So you're not really aborting if it hasn't touched yet. You're not aborting yet.
Even if that's the case, a woman who takes birth control is aborting.
How is she aborting and she hasn't having sex? It takes the man's sperm, Melody.
Because when you take birth control, what it does is it causes an abortion.
Is that what birth control do?
Yes.
I've never taken birth control, so I don't know. I haven't had sex in years, Melody. Like I was just one of the ones. I said I'm gonna keep my legs closed. Honey. It's more than just babies out here. It's some death out here. But so I don't lay down and have sex. But is that what birth control do?
Yes.
I've never heard of that.
Because what it does is it makes the uterus incompatible with life.
What does that mean?
The egg will not implant in the uterus.
Really?
Yes. All birth control.
I really didn't know what it was.
IUDs, all birth control. That's what they do.
So when you're looking at birth control, think about birth control. So what does birth control do to the egg? Is it killing the egg or what
It
is it
doesn't do
doing?
anything to the egg.
So what is it doing then?
It makes the womb inhospitable for attachment and the growth of a child.
So basically it's terminating the womb.
Yes. It's terminating the egg
So
because
the eggs,
because the egg cannot get implanted in the womb, so it just gets flushed out, just like every other egg, even if it's been
but
fertilized.
it still hasn't procreated with the
No,
sperm
even
yet.
if it's been even that's the whole point.
Oh,
If it's been
oh.
right, if it's joined with
Mm-hmm.
sperm, has the
Mm-hmm.
potential to be implanted in the womb,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not going to be implanted in the womb because the womb is inhospitable for that, and so it just goes right on out.
So it does nothing to the sperm. What it does is deactivating the egg
No, it
so that it don't.
deactivates the walls of the uterus.
Mm,
So the egg
mm.
is fertilized, but it can't get implanted in the womb.
The womb. So when he's in, his sperm is fertilized. Oh my God. It has fertilized the egg,
Yes.
but then it can't attach to the wall
Yes.
because it has blocked it. That
Yes.
would be considered as abortion. You're
Yes.
aborting the seed. Yeah.
Yes.
You're aborting the seed.
Yes.
Mm. My God.
And
Why
this
come
is
we
why.
never went to God and asked God, what does God think?
Well, if you look at the
Because
Bible,
God made it that way.
there
I'm
are
not talking about the
actually
Bible, Melody. I'm not talking about the Bible. The Bible made up a whole bunch of stuff. I'm not talking about the
yes,
Bible. I'm talking about nature and God and the way
yeah,
we're
yeah,
designed.
yeah.
And why? Because don't you think that if there is God and we do believe in God, don't you think, and I'm going to say this, don't you think that when we look at God, don't you think now, according to what we think, God is supposed to be smarter than us, right? So, right. So, of course, that's how we all supposed to think, right? God is smarter and bigger than us. When we get into trouble, we go pray to God and ask for wisdom. So, why would God create all of this knowing that humanity is going to have all these problems? You understand what I'm saying?
well,
So, there has to be an
this
answer on how humanity deals with things. Come on
this
now,
this
so that we won't be doing this. And to me, that goes back to, you need to handle up on goes back to what we saying on how we're dealing with our bodies as human beings. You understand what I'm saying? And stop, because I don't think that sex was just made for relationships. When we have relationships, they're bigger than sex. It goes back to what you were saying, Melody. The man got it in his mind that we supposed to just open up our legs and please him. But is that what God really said? Because it's not written in the Bible. So it goes back to, we're not going by some type of
on the other
wisdom
hand,
somewhere. We lacking some.
if we weren't
Yeah,
supposed to enjoy it,
yeah. We are. I don't mean not enjoy it. That's not what I'm talking about. You are supposed to enjoy it. But I'm talking, you know what I'm talking about, this at will thing just floundering around all the time. Because knowing that you get these babies, you get all these babies. So there has to be an answer to life
well,
than us just, because
so I
if
have
life made it that way, then why are we reversing back to terminate it?
so I
You
will
see what I'm
tell you
saying?
that
Yeah.
I don't believe there's any accidents, and I don't believe there's any
Mm-hmm.
all these things that happen to us in our lifetime. When I was first in my program for counseling,
Mm-hmm.
and for the many, many, many years, it was like, oh, it's all about fixing people's traumatic history, helping people work
Hmm.
through their traumatic history, because that's
You're
what's
a therapist.
broken.
I'm gonna ask you a question,
Yeah.
Melody. I'm gonna ask you a question. Now I want you to listen. Why do the word therapist have rapist in it?
I don't know.
Y'all
I've
gonna have
always
to.
wondered that.
They gonna have to change that title. They need to change that. They need to just say counselor or healer or
Right.
something.
But
I'm like,
anyway,
they need to change that.
so
Yeah. Mm,
my understanding now is way bigger than that, because what I
yeah.
understand is that we choose the life that we choose. We choose
Mm-hmm.
who our family is, who our friends are, the country we live in, the city we live in, the house. We choose those things with a plan.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like, the way I think of it is like,
Mm-hmm.
we are, because we're not just this body, right?
Mm-hmm.
We
Or
are
spirit.
these
what
are
they call
our,
energy. They call
these
it
are
energy.
avatars.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Uh,
It's
avatar,
what we operate through the physical
avatar.
world. Yeah.
Avatar.
Mm-hmm.
We are an
Mm-hmm.
avatar, right? But that we set ourselves up to learn certain things in this lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And we make those choices to have these experiences so that we can grow and become all of who we're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be, which is
Supposed to be. Yeah.
fully, fully
I do
love,
believe
right?
that too. I do
Right.
believe that too.
It's
I
like
just
a,
don't think that we can continue to grow knowing, like, okay, like say for instance, we make mistakes, right? Like say for instance, I'm laying down and I get pregnant and I have an abortion. And I have a few of them. Let's just say I do that, which I haven't, but let's just say I do. And now I'm starting to get wisdom and knowledge about my body, how my body operates, how male body operate, understand that there are the consequences to me having sex. Don't you think that life expects for me to grow and say, okay,
yeah,
you need to make some better choices
yeah,
now? You
yeah,
can't just keep using abortion
yeah,
as this tool to get
yeah,
rid of your responsibilities. You have
yeah.
to understand. So that's my point on it.
Yes, and
Because
I
to me,
don't disagree with that.
that's when it becomes mass murder. You understand what I'm
But
saying?
that's
Because
not
yeah, yeah,
that's but people do that, right? So it's kind of
yeah.
like when you think of a video game, right? I don't know how many video
Mhm.
games you
Mhm.
played. I haven't played that many, but I've watched my kids play them.
Mhm.
And
I know. I
so
don't play them either. I don't like them.
no, but
I
I've
said they
watched my
need to
kids
make some
play.
positive ones. They shoot and kill too
But so
much.
I
Yeah.
understand why
Mhm.
they how they work. And how they work
Mhm.
is they basically have this plan laid out, right, for you to get to a
Mhm.
goal, and they have all these obstacles in the way that you have to
Mhm.
overcome to get to the end goal. And every step in the game, you can if you don't learn, then that
Mhm.
whatever skill it is you need for that level, you won't get past that level,
Come on now.
right?
Come on now.
So you have
Come
to
on now.
learn to move to the next level.
Yeah.
And that's
And
exactly how our
that's a
lives
good
are.
point. But in this day and time, Melody, that's what I'm trying to say. Dynamics have shifted. You understand what I'm saying? We're not in our culture that me and you grew up in, where we didn't have all the information that we have today. And there may be, I would say, maybe a certain percentage that still don't. You understand what I'm saying? They still don't have that level of
Oh
knowledge.
yeah.
But with the colleges we have,
They don't
with the
want us to.
debates we
They don't
have,
even want people to go to
oh
college.
yes,
They
they
say,
do.
"Oh,
We've talked about it in college. Girl, we talked about all kinds of stuff.
no, I'm saying
Melody,
in
I went to the
college
University of
that
North
they're
Texas.
making college so unaffordable that
Oh well, yeah,
fewer and fewer of us are going
yeah.
to college. They
Well,
don't
honey, I
want
went to it when it was
they
unaffordable. That's why I'm in debt right now.
the powers that be, whoever they
Yeah.
are, they don't
Yeah,
want
but
us to
we
have
have
knowledge.
social media, we have people to talk,
But
and we have
that's not
everybody
knowledge
in.
necessarily.
No, but it's information though. Some of that stuff is information.
And some
Like
of it's accurate,
let's
some
let
of it's not.
you know how I say each generation get wiser and wiser. That's true because your kids talk about stuff. You be like, child, what is you talking about? Like they know stuff today that we didn't know then. Sometimes these young people talk to me, and I'm not that much older, but sometimes they talk to me. I'd be like, child, when I was your age, we went to church, soccer, or whatever we did, and we went home. Like we didn't discuss stuff like that or what you young people are discussing today. So that's what I mean by when you get more and more knowledge, and I just think that it's a responsibility on our end, both male and female, to start taking
So I
responsibility
agree.
and
Yeah.
stop just making everything legal like that.
And here's
You
the
understand? Like
problem.
people need to take
Here's
responsibility.
the problem. And coming back to
Yeah.
abortion, the
Yeah.
problem is that when you make abortion illegal, more abortions occur, and they occur
You
in
think so?
dangerous. Oh yeah, oh
Oh,
yeah.
you talking about
It's
people
just
doing them anyway?
because people will do
Hmm.
them anyway. It's just like smoking cigarettes. People are going to still smoke, but when you make it illegal, it makes people want it more.
But a cigarette has nothing to do with
No,
termination of
it's just
a child,
just a
though.
personal choice. Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
giving it as an
Hmm.
example of
Yeah.
there was a
Hmm.
time where the approach to alcohol, right? Let's go with
Yeah.
alcohol, was that
Hmm.
nobody should do it. It's illegal and but what did it do? It forced people into corners where they were doing it illegally. They were gonna
Hmm.
do what they're gonna do. And it's the same with abortion. What we know now is that more abortions happen before before Roe v. Wade, over time, because more
Mm-hmm.
people had access to good birth control, more people had access to education, more people had a way to manage their sexuality, to where not only
Melanie,
did,
why you think people just don't discipline themselves sometimes? Do you think it's
because it's
hard
not
for
all
them?
about discipline, and it isn't all about discipline, because
What is it about then?
it's hormones, it's rape, it's manipulation, it's
Oh, a
feeling
lot of
like you have to
manipulation.
be loved. I
I
mean,
wouldn't
it's
necessarily
all
say
kinds
rape,
of
but I would
things.
say manipulation. A lot of manipulation, because
Yeah.
a lot of times we were manipulated to have sex. So yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Well,
It's
now
very
we're more
complicated,
wiser, but yeah.
and people are
Um,
not simple, right?
I
It's
just don't think I just don't think though it goes back. I know we keep going back at this point, but it goes back to we have way more knowledge now. And because back then I didn't know what I didn't know, Melody. You
I
understand
didn't
what I'm
either.
saying? But with
No.
today's information and everybody talking, young folks talking, that like we have no excuse now. Like we have the knowledge, you know.
We have we
And
have
and I
we
just
have
I just
knowledge, but we don't necessarily have access to care.
what do you mean care? Like
Well, what I
healthcare?
mean is, when they shut down Planned Parenthood all over the country, those women in the
Them
under
murdering organization. Melanie, I disagree with you on that. Them old murdering organizations. Melanie,
listen.
I ain't gonna lie. That's where we disagree,
Well, you
sweetheart.
have to look at
You have a lot of
statistics.
doctors that do. Oh, I had 3 babies. I got 3 kids. They grown now, and I had pretty good doctors. My doctors were
Yeah.
pretty good, and this was
Right.
back then.
Yeah.
This is when they had the old. So I had such these doctors now. Well, I take that back, Melody, because now people don't care. But these doctors back then, they were very caring, and I was
Hmm.
a young girl, and they understood I was a young girl. I remember I was so naive. I used to. They was showing me a sonogram. I said, "What's all that stuff in there?" And they would take out their time to break it down to me. Oh, that's the hair on the head, and that's the this. They were so caring back then. But I don't know. These doctors now, a lot of doctors are crack doctors. They get you in and out. They're not taking,
Well, it's because they don't pay
they
them.
don't. Is that what it is?
Yeah, they
Is that
don't
what it
pay
is?
them enough, so they have to just kind of go like this, get you in and get you out.
Like a like a assembly line or
Yeah.
something. Yeah,
But
yeah. But
my
so
point
you're
is that when
saying
you
that
look
we
at
don't have advanced care today? Mm-hmm.
statistically the number
Mm-hmm.
of women's healthcare, let's not even talk about women's healthcare centers, um,
Mm-hmm.
in the especially in the states where abortion is now illegal,
Mm-hmm.
then more and more doctors are leaving those states. More and more of those centers are closing, and though there are less and less access to healthcare, less and less access to education, less and less access to birth control, and women are dying because they go to the emergency room having a miscarriage, and the doctor says, "Oh, I can't touch you."
Because of insurance
Right?
or something like
No,
that.
no, no, because if they did and the child dies, then they could be put on trial for murder.
Really?
Yes. This is why
Why
it's a
though?
problem. This is why it's a problem. It's the extremity of it, right? It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
allow for any reality.
Hmm.
And when you go as far as like in
It's a
Georgia,
hard
where
debate.
they've
It's
made
a hard debate.
IVF illegal because, oh my God, you have to, there will be eggs that don't get implanted and they'll die. I mean, it's,
Well, all eggs die. Our eggs die every month.
yes, but
So
fertilized
that's
eggs,
not the
but
way I
fertilized eggs. They don't use
well
all
our eggs die.
fertilized
Yeah.
eggs,
I see
right?
what
When
you're
they
saying.
implant,
Implant that in the
fertilize
woman
a
like
bunch
that.
of them. They implant
Mm-hmm.
some, and
Mm-hmm.
some they don't even use, right? They just get discarded. And so that's why in
Wow.
Georgia now they're saying that's illegal. So what they've done is they've made it impossible for women to make a choice in those states.
I do don't think I'm just numbskull and I just don't understand that it's so versatile and so diverse.
Yeah.
I do understand there are so many different dynamics to this game. It just really is. There's
Yeah.
no one right answer to it, but I do believe that as people, when we know better, we got to do better. We
We
can't
have to
just
do
keep
better, and we have to be
relying.
more
Yeah,
compassionate.
yeah. And when I say compassionate, sometimes listen, there are seasons for everything. You're gonna always be compassionate, But sometimes it's not about compassion. Sometimes when you're going overboard with stuff, you understand what I'm saying? It needs to be correction. Correction is
But
compassion.
see, I
Wait a
also
minute. Wait a
believe,
minute. Let me finish. Let me finish. Correction is compassion. When your child is in the middle of the street about to get hit by a car after you done told them 15 times stay out the road, you don't run into the road. Oh, Johnny, I'm so compassionate. Oh, Sheila, I love you. Jump out the street. And then you calm down, and then you say, listen, didn't mama tell you A, B, C, D, E? Like, you have to balance it out. Like, we can't use false love as a tool. I think sometimes if we're not, let me finish, Melanie. I think sometimes if we're not careful, we'll begin to manipulate love, the concepts of love, and the concepts of compassion without correction. There needs to be course correction. And it doesn't have to be hard. I just have a strong personality. It don't have to be hard. It don't have to be, you understand what I'm saying? It don't have to be the way you do it or I do it. We're different. Everybody has different personalities. But you have to understand correction is compassion. Because if I don't correct you, and if I don't, then how can I say I love you, Melody? How can
well,
I keep saying I love you if I don't show you a better way?
what
Do you
showing you a
understand
better
that?
way is different than taking away your choices.
Well, if you listen, they don't stop you from having an abortion. You go to any
No,
state you
they
want to
do.
go to.
If you don't have money
Don't you?
and you're in Louisiana or in South
Oh,
Texas and you're a drug addict and you've already got 3 kids
hmm
that you're trying to take care of and you get pregnant and you have you want to get an abortion, but the state won't let you. So you're stuck with carrying this child that ends up being underweight and malnourished and have to be the ICU for a year.
yeah. And
I
I do
mean,
understand all the issues you're talking about. Now I want to touch on something different. There was a time, and I don't know if you remember this. There was a time when they were doing especially in the black communities, and I remember this. But I don't know if they did it in the white communities. You can make a mention of that if you want to. I just don't remember it. I remember in the black community it was very, very deep. But the black women wombs were being attacked really, really hard, and they would have to get a lot of hysterectomies. So they
oh,
would
I
remove
know
they
that
would they
was,
would remove them
yeah,
so that
taking
they
away their choice,
couldn't
taking
have
away their
children.
choices.
And then they would also do what they would call clip, tie, and burn your tubes.
Yep,
Do you understand that?
yep.
And so that's why I believe, Melody, that abortion is more about the targeting of the woman's wound and the termination of life than it is. Listen to me. This is where I'm finna balance it out.
Facts, you're
More than
backwards, but
more
yeah.
more than what it is has to do with abortion. You understand what I'm saying?
I know that's
Because
part
when
of
you
the
look
line
at
that I've
when
heard.
you
I have
look at
heard that. I've heard that
when you look
argument.
at the
Yeah.
big spectrum of it,
Yeah.
there's women in general. There are white women that want to have babies so bad, but because of things have been done to their wounds and done to their bodies with medications and with all this different kind of stuff. Again, how many medications they giving women talking about what this may affect your contraception, you may not be able to bear.
Right.
Again, a targeting, like you said, the woman's choice. But if you notice, it's not more of the side for life, it's more on the side of taking life.
Well,
If
to
you
me,
look
it's
at
about
all these
taking
different
choice.
variables,
It's about removing
taking
people's
life,
choice and
taking
choice.
life. Yeah,
But
yeah,
because those women may or may not decide to have a child. Who knows? But they don't have a
yeah,
choice. That choice is
yeah.
taken from them,
Yeah. But
and that
there are
I
more
object
women
to.
that want children that don't want them. They just want them. They just don't want them at a time that they're not ready for them.
But
But yeah.
we need that freedom to choose, because
Mhm.
that's what appalls me about taking and making a
Well,
woman
honey, keep
fertile.
them legs closed. I'm just gonna
It's
say
not
it,
that
country and
easy.
southern. Yes, it
But
is.
it's not that
I
easy.
done it for over 15 years, 16 years. Yes,
I
it is.
understand.
It's a
It's not that
choice.
easy when you're
It's a
14,
choice.
15, 16,
Or
and full of
use
hormones.
protection. Use
It's just
protection.
not that
Oh,
easy.
well, that's different, Melody. That's
Yeah.
different. But most of the people that's laying up on the table to get an abortion is not 14 years old. I'm sorry, but it's not.
They're not 14, but they're somewhere
It's not.
usually between
It's
16
not.
and 25.
It's not. Older than that too. Yeah.
But most of them are
You're right.
16 to 25.
They do target the young wound, don't they?
And here's the thing is
They
that
do target the young wound. Mm-hmm.
is that it is
It's
absolutely,
complicated, Melody.
to
That's why I
me,
wanted to have this conversation.
because to
It's
me
complicated. It's
the
complicated.
evil in this world comes from not being forced to not get a choice.
Is that where evil come into you at?
If
Evil to me comes in
you're not taking a choice,
is looking at. Go ahead, babe. I'm
when
sorry.
somebody
Go
kills
ahead.
you, they've taken away your choice of life, right? When somebody
Mm-hmm.
kills you, when somebody traps you in a corner and rapes you, they've taken away your choice. When you're a
Mm-hmm.
child and you're molested by a parent, they've taken away your choice, or beaten by a
Mm-hmm.
parent, they've taken away your
Mm-hmm.
choice.
And
And
when you terminate that child,
well, it's
that's
not a
taken
child
away.
yet. It's not a child yet.
That is a child, Melody. That you know that's life. Melody, quit playing.
No.
I'm talking to you because I'm talking to you from around the way. That is life.
Well,
That's
as
very much
again,
life.
I say, no one can save
Mm-hmm.
when life
Yeah.
begins. And yeah,
It
people
begins
have
the
different
moment
beliefs.
that you procreate.
Different
Yeah.
people have different beliefs about that.
Yeah.
But
But
there's
the
no
doctors
one
let
that
you know because they're able to see it through the scantrons
they
and
can
stuff.
tell you that
And they bear witness to it.
that the flower
Mm-hmm.
has begun to bloom. That's all they
Mm-hmm.
can tell you. They
And that's
can't tell
life.
you it's a flower yet, but
Yeah.
they can
But
tell you
that's
that
the
it's
reason why it's
on
called
its way to
abort
blooming.
because you have to terminate it. That's why it's called abort because you have to
And
terminate it.
that's why we take birth control
Yeah.
pills and morning after pills
Yeah.
and do everything we
It's
can so that it never
complicated.
gets
That's
that
why I
far.
say
Yeah.
it goes back to
Yeah.
responsibility. I think that when life, whether you say some people don't believe in God, whatever they believe in, whatever they concepts, but like you said, I do believe this one thing with you that is so many variables to it, you know.
Yeah.
And I also believe that when you take yourself out of all the religious rhetoric, that we are made to grow and we are made to learn, and that there is mercy and compassion for that. But I also believe that we can't just keep using excuses, that we have to find
Yeah.
some type of balance to
I
this
do want to
thing.
tell you one
Like,
story. I will
yeah,
tell you one
yeah,
story. I had a
we
friend
do.
who
Like,
was an
because to
atheist.
me,
Okay.
it just starts becoming mass murder. It just
Yes. Yeah.
does.
And there are
Yeah.
times when
Mhm.
I see it. I've seen it happen
Mhm.
because I had a
Mhm.
girlfriend who was an atheist, and she didn't use birth control except for an abortion. She would get an
Mhm.
abortion if she happened to get pregnant. And
Wow.
every time that happened, it would make my skin crawl. Not
Yeah.
because I didn't think it was her right to choose, but
But
because
that's how
that
the
was,
majority of women use it, though.
no, it isn't.
Yes,
We
they
use
do. The
birth
doctors tell
control.
you that.
We
No, I'm talking
women
about
use birth
I'm talking about
control.
the majority of women who get pregnant. The doctors will tell you that they're using abortions
Some
as a
are, some
form
are,
of birth control. And
some
yeah,
are.
yeah,
And it makes my skin
yeah.
crawl, but it is their
Because
choice.
they
I
have
don't
these
like it. I'm
repeats
not
all
happy
the
about it.
time.
And I think
Yeah.
it's,
Mm-hmm.
I can't even, there's not even words for what that is. But,
Yeah.
but I also
Yeah.
recognize that it's not my place to judge any more than it is for my place to judge a man's innocent
Mm-hmm.
or not in a death
Mm-hmm.
penalty case.
Well, it's not
When
judging
it
the
goes to
person.
where he's being put to death or not.
It's looking at life and life being terminated. Like when I look at a woman, I automatically know I'm a woman, and I automatically know she comes from a array of life. Like we don't know if she's being influenced to get the abortion, or if she's doing it out of her own will. That's why it's good for people to be educated.
Yeah.
Because look at the
Yeah.
children today.
Yeah.
They're doing sex changes. Okay, you can't drink alcohol till you 21, but we can give you a ding-a-ling at 12.
Well, which isn't true. They don't do that, but they will
No,
put
no,
they
no, no,
will
no.
put you
They are
on.
doing sex changes with
Well,
these children.
no. Here's what they do. They don't
Yeah.
do sex changes when you're under 18, but they will put you on drugs that make it so that you don't develop sexually until later. That they do, but they don't.
No, they've had some procedures. They've
They
done
don't
some
do the
procedures.
surgeries. They don't.
No,
They
they've
won't
had
do the
some
surgeries.
surgeries. That's
They won't do the
why that's why
surgeries.
the courts are in an uproar.
No, they won't do the
They
surgeries.
was
Look it up.
yeah.
They don't do the
Yeah.
surgeries.
But at the same time, why are you doing that? If you
To
can't
give them
drink,
longer time to make a choice, to put off making the choice longer. That's why they do it. I've known
so
enough people on both sides of it.
why are the trans people coming out saying that they are doing this to children with the parents' consent? Why are
They're
they
giving
saying
them the
that?
medications that stop
No,
their.
no, no, not the medication, Melody. There are trans people who are coming out. There are parents who are coming out. No, 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 Melody.
No,
There
I
are
don't believe
parents
that.
who are
No,
coming out.
it
So you
doesn't
think
happen
these
that
parents
way.
are lying?
It doesn't happen
These
that way.
parents
Oh
are
yeah.
lying. You
You ever
think these
watch
parents are
Jerry
lying?
Springer? You ever watch Jerry Springer? Okay,
These
yeah.
not on Jerry Springer though. These
I'm
people
just
are before
telling
the
you.
courts. They're before the courts, Melody. They're not
No,
on Jerry Springer.
they don't
They're
do the
before the
surgeries before
courts.
they're 18.
Yeah.
The
And they're
doctors won't
coming
do it.
out saying that their child has had this,
Look it up.
this and this and
No, they
that.
don't do the
Yeah.
surgeries. They do not do the surgeries before 18.
Mm. So you're just saying that these families are just lying and these parents are lying, making up
I don't
these
know what
stories.
misunderstanding there is, but they didn't
Yeah.
do surgeries before that because the doctors
Yeah.
won't do them
Yeah. So
before
I've
18.
listened to a couple of trans people, not all of them, but a couple of them, and I was saying it myself to be honest with you, but just listening to some of them, and they were saying a lot of people that think that they're gay, they're not necessarily gay.
Right.
They just influence right
Right.
now, and so when they go through these procedures, by the
Oh,
time they come back
honey, I got a
to who
whole
they,
other discussion on that one and
yeah,
neurodivergence,
yeah,
but because that's
yeah.
really mostly neurodivergence. But
Yeah.
anyway,
It's just kind of,
yeah,
that's why I say education. I'm
yeah,
not saying it's the end all be all. And when I say education, I'm not talking about like a book and a pen and a paper.
no,
I'm
helping them
talking about
understand.
like insight and wisdom and stuff like that. And like I said, it doesn't stop everything. There's people know that you don't jaywalk in the red light, but we do it every day, all day. So I'm not saying it stops everything, but it do begin to plant the seed of nurture and understanding. And to me, that is a part of compassion. That to me, that when you get
Yeah,
inside the schools,
because
when
you
you
can't
get
do
in,
what you don't know.
when
Yeah,
well, yeah, and when you get inside these boardrooms or when you get in, not boardrooms, I'm probably saying it wrong, meeting rooms, what do we call these workshops and all this kind of stuff, and you just begin to say, hey women, you are so powerful that you're able to give life, and isn't it better to give life than to take life? So let's teach you how to balance this thing out a little bit more better than what we've been doing. And I just think that that's
yeah,
important.
I agree
Some
with
people
that.
may disagree
Yeah,
with me, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. But I think it's way better than the continual of just saying, okay, oops, Johnny felt so good. He had such a big diggling, but I ain't ready for this kid yet. Like that's that. And then that's a lot of behavior out there like that. Or she was so fine, man, I couldn't help myself, and or I was just hot, or it was just that moment, or I was just drunk, or whatever the case may be, because it's more of those than it is, oh, I have a medical condition, or oh, I've really thought out and planned out my career. It's more of those mishaps than it is those types. So that's what I mean by, we got to do better.
I
I
think,
just believe
yeah,
that.
we have
I
to
believe that.
educate. We have to provide
Hmm.
resources. We have to help
Hmm.
people understand their bodies. We have to help them
Hmm.
understand how to take care of their own sexuality if they need to.
Mhm.
I
Some
mean,
people don't even understand that. Like for a long time, I didn't even understand my power as a woman.
right,
That I don't
right,
have to lay with him or her. I can choose that. Oh, you have a certain type of family line. You have a certain type of gene line. So they don't even teach you on that level. Like
right,
who you procreate. Like there are some people they so intelligent. Like they won't even have sex with certain type of people who
right.
have sicknesses and illnesses in their families, or they have this certain type of or genetic pool. They want to mate with certain types of people and certain types of genes so
And
that they can
having that knowledge.
procreate.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And
yeah,
that, but they don't teach you that. They don't teach you that. And why not teach people that?
yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Teach people about the strength and see, your power lies in the not. That's why it says self-knowledge is the most powerful knowledge. You know what I'm saying? But when you ain't got no self-knowledge, then you out here doing
Got
stupid
nothing.
things.
Yeah,
Thank you. So then, to me, not to say that I think other people's ideas are stupid, because it's not, because they don't understand. But to me, if you teach that type of knowledge and bring people up to that type of wisdom, you understand what I'm saying? Then that's a power source. I don't think they want us to know that much, though, like you said.
yeah. I don't
But
think they want us to know.
they don't.
Yeah,
But that's a power source, because then you
yeah.
start disciplining yourself. Better be like, no, I ain't finna lay down with you and your jack leg self. I don't want my baby coming out. You start thinking better. You start thinking different. And I'm teasing, I'm making jokes, but I'm also telling reality too. And you start looking at yourself in a different light, and you start looking at yourself what I would call God knowledge, because it is God knowledge. It's wisdom. And you're right, they don't want us to know. But then we're dealing with all this affliction and all this disability of the world and all these choices and all these dynamics that's confusing everybody. So that's what I mean by I think
That's
there
like we
is a
live in
God.
this
Yeah.
time that is
Mm-hmm.
the quote
Mm-hmm.
unquote information age, but we have
Yep.
so much misinformation that
Come on
sorting
now.
through it becomes
Hmm.
next to impossible.
That's why I say it goes back to they after these women's wounds. I don't care what nobody say.
Oh,
Women
I
need to
know. It was,
wisen up.
they did that
They gotta
to women
wisen
of
up.
color. They did it to poor women. They did it to women who
Hmm.
had, they
Hmm.
decided were mentally ill because they disagreed with their
Yeah,
husbands. I mean,
yeah.
I mean,
All
it was,
kind of stuff.
yeah,
They
yeah.
was after white women for a minute
Oh, yeah.
too. White
Oh,
women,
yeah.
white women just have the power to fight back. They'll fight you with their lawyers.
Well,
They're
yeah,
like, you
they
better go
could
sit
at
your
least get
tail
people to
down.
listen to them, right? Yeah.
Yeah, 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 exactly.
Yeah.
They'll fight you with their
Well,
education
so
and power,
basically,
but yeah.
what we're talking about is
Hmm.
the whole
Hmm.
discussion is really
Hmm.
about controlling women.
Mm. 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 I don't think it's about controlling women. From my standpoint, it's not. From my standpoint, it's about us being knowledgeable and bringing ourselves up to the best knowledge we can have possible, and then directing our activity or our behaviors from that knowledge. To me, that's what it's about. It may be about the world trying to control women
Right,
and manipulate women,
right.
and they are doing that. But women have to understand, to me, again, to me, women have to understand your greatest power is not in, oh, you just sex and then you terminate. Your greatest power is first educating yourself about how powerful you are
I agree with that.
and what you
Yeah,
possess.
yes.
And then you operate from that
Then you
level,
can make a choice at a different
and
level.
then you make a your choice from that level. Yeah, but you're right, it is about the world abusing these women and
Yes.
controlling their wounds. It do go back to that,
And
whether it's the
interestingly,
termination of their seed, or whether it's taking out their wounds, or whether it's giving them medications that's
and
killing their
yeah, and
weight. Yeah, yeah. Hmm.
interestingly, in every dictatorial society, the first thing that
Hmm.
they do is restrict women's rights to abortion care.
Wow. It
The
goes
first
back
thing
to the
they do.
seed. You know, the Bible mentions that, whether you believe it or not. Go back to the Bible. What did it say? It says the serpent was after the woman's seed. That's biblical, honey. And they've been carrying it out ever
And they've been
since.
blaming the
They
woman
are,
ever since. They've been
and
blaming the
thank
woman
you.
ever since.
Yeah, 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 yeah. They wanna
Yeah,
they wanna rape her, sex her, molest her, do all this
yeah.
stuff.
And then blame
And then they
us.
wanna, yeah, 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 yeah. It's a dynamic to it. It's a powerful dynamic. It really is.
It is.
Uh,
And for
it's a
people
powerful
who
dynamic. Hmm.
for people who've been raised as you have, and a lot of people have, and having a
Hmm.
big heart and full of love,
Hmm.
if you
Hmm.
think of that impregnation as being a baby, well, yeah, God, that's horrific to think,
It
right?
is a baby.
If you think of it that way, it's horrific
Listen,
to think that.
I wasn't even 3 months, and the doctors back then can do those little, what do they call those little
Sonogram,
scannatrons,
the sonogram, yeah.
sonograms, and you can see that little thing in there, hey, baby. But let
So
me
you
tell you
could,
something, Melanie. I don't think it's just a baby for the sake of baby. I've listened to doctors who've done abortions, and they tell you why they quit. They tell you why one doctor, he will
and
tell you, I've done over 1,500 abortions. And let me tell you why I had to quit.
and
He
I
said when the baby is this small, he said we have to stick a machine up in there and we suck it out. He said, but we hold accountable for the legs and the bones and the body. He said, so the woman won't die, because if we leave that up in there, it'll poison her and die, death up in there like that. He said, but when it's this big, we can't use that.
so
We have to use what do you call that thing? I don't know what they call it, but it's a silver machine, not a machine, but it's a thing where they grab. He said, and we do a blind abortion where we grab our legs, grab our bodies, and we are cracking bones. To me, Melody, I just
so
can't
here's what I
fathom
want
that.
you to do. I
Yeah,
want
I
you and
can't fathom
anybody who's listening today, there's a series of short films, documentaries.
that. Hmm.
It's called Choice at Risk. Choice dash at dash risk dot
You
org.
guys hear that? I want y'all to listen to Miss Melody. Listen to what she's saying. She's giving you a insight, so you listen to what
Is
she's saying.
choice at risk, choice dash at dash risk.org.
Hmm. Hmm.
And you'll see a series of films that were shot back in
Hmm.
the 90s where they
Hmm.
interviewed people that were doctors, women, nurses, people that
Hmm.
experienced what the world was like and what hospital
Hmm.
care for women was like before Roe was overturned, before Roe was a law. And in that, you will see what the actual circumstances were, where dozens of women were dying in the wings of the hospitals and the doctors were not allowed to do anything to save them. That's what we're going back to.
We got to get back to that education, though. We got to get back to the wisdom that we know that we're supposed to be. Once you raise yourself up and start better giving yourself wisdom and educating your body and stuff, a lot of that
And
stuff
I'm
you can prevent.
100% behind people making the choice not to.
Yeah, a lot of
I'm
that stuff can be prevented. Yeah.
150%. People need to have the choice.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Melody's gonna leave you what she got to say, and then I'm gonna leave you with what I got to say, and then we're gonna cut it off. I do want you guys to engage. We would love your comments. We would love to know what you think. We would even love to know if you got the courage now, you body and you bold. Tell us if you've had an abortion and how it has affected you, whether in a positive way you feel or whether in a negative way. This is not to shut you down. This is not to shut you off. As you can see, we know each other personally, but we're having an honest, open conversation. That's what TCLN is all about. I don't mince my words. She's not going to mince her words. She's going to leave you with her thoughts. I'm going to leave you with mine. And again, guys, just know this. Whatever you do, you are an adult and you are responsible for you, okay? So, Miss Melody, would you like to leave the people who would see this episode and leave them with some points of words or wisdom or guidance that you would like to leave them with?
I would just say, for one thing, I just really appreciate having a open discussion, dialogue, because it's so hard to have these days.
It's hard to have one.
Oh my gosh.
People will wipe your neck off.
But I believe that people who are pro-life are most of them, not all of them, but most of them are that way because they have a huge heart. They're doing it out of love.
I think I'm this way because when I had an abortion, like you said, it goes back to compassion. I can't stomp on you for what you don't know because I didn't know at the time. And what had happened to me, when I look back on it, I do feel like I was robbed. I do feel like that somebody should have helped me. Yeah. But I have to understand that. Yeah. And I think that brings the compassion element. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that I don't say for the people who know better, they need to do better, you know. I do have that other side of me too. So, but thank you. And I thank you for coming on. And I wanted to have this conversation. I thought that this was so important. And I think you need two different dynamics. I don't think you need two people who agree.
And I will say
Melanie, there were some things you said today that I just hadn't thought about. Like I hadn't thought about birth control. I knew about birth control. I just thought it stopped you from getting pregnant. I hadn't really processed it. I've never taken it. I didn't know that the egg and the sperm is together, but it's keeping it from doing the connection. So that in and of itself is an abortion too. Yeah. And I hadn't really saw it that way. So there are things that you've said today that's brought light to me. That's why I don't like that's why my channel is the way it is.
It's awesome. Yeah. But I will say that I think you're right. The more we educate ourselves, the more knowledge we have, the better we are at understanding that when we make a choice, what the impact of that choice is, and we also understand what the impact of taking people's choices away is. We got to know all of that to be able to make a wise decision.
Yeah. And what I would say, and thank you for leaving that wisdom. I want to thank you for joining in today, Miss Melody. I really do appreciate you. Miss Melody make films. If you want to check her out, where can they check you out at, Miss Melody?
melodybrookfilms.com.
There you go. And my last words is this. There is no mistake up on the face of the earth that we have never made. There is no choice that we have never made that God could not forgive us for. But we have to understand, these are just my words and my heart. We have to understand that God expects us to get wiser. It's just like a flower. It starts out as a seed, but it grows. We're the same way. We start out, but we grow. We don't just grow physically. We grow in wisdom. We grow in knowledge. And we should know better and we should do better. I would say this to any type of woman. If you've ever had an abortion and you're dealing with guilt, I would say to you, please do not live in guilt. Please do not live in shame, because you must understand anytime you're living in guilt and in shame, it doesn't allow you to heal and it doesn't allow you to grow.
Amen.
There's no guilt. There's no shame. You must understand that whether you were influenced or whether you made it by your own choice, you learn, you grow, you get better. And to me, if you're dealing with that type of guilt, you understand that what happened to you, more than likely you were probably influenced to do more than of your own choice. Because a lot of times when it's your own choice, there's not a lot of guilt like that. And I just want to remind you. So please just understand that there's no guilt to you. And you didn't do something bad, and you're allowed to heal and you're allowed to grow. And I wish everybody well. I hope you guys watch this. Please do respond. We love your comments. We love for you to engage. This is an important topic. It's a current topic. And everybody be blessed.
Wise
Thank you
words.
for joining in today. Thank you for joining in today, Melanie. Thank you so much. And okay, bye everyone. Oh, like, share, and subscribe. And also, if you can support financially, you can find me on PayPal. It's in the description below, and you can also find me on Cash App. Okay? All righty. Thank you, guys.